When we think of Paul, we think of a devout apostle who wrote the majority of the books that we have in the New Testament, who is really the set the foundation for what would become Christian theology. We think of that sort of individual, which is why it is so surprising in Acts to see that when we're first introduced to him, he is a zealot Jew who is looking to kill those who he would eventually become one of the most major figures within. Uh, it's a really his conversion story is something that it gets referenced in popular culture. It gets referenced in sermons, and we get to talk about. And I want to talk about it a little bit today. I'm actually breaking this whole story up into parts. This is part one of it, and the next part we will be diving into next week. But I do think there are some things that we can look at this and kind of take from this story. It's important to remember here that this was not the first time that Saul had encountered the gospel. This was not the first time that he had heard of Jesus's name. Saul was there when Stephen, who was the first martyr in the church, was stoned to death. He was actually there, as we are here in Acts, holding everyone's coats. So he was an individual who he was raised Jewish. He was very devoutly Jewish. He references this in his own letters that he was a Pharisee, that he was well educated in all of this, and he very much believed to a fault that he was right on this issue. The issue being that Jesus was not the Messiah. It was definitely not the Son of God. And the fact that these individuals believed that, well, that was so offensive to him that he felt it was necessary to essentially arrest them and try them and have them executed in the same way that Stephen was, which I think we can all agree was a pretty extreme. And yet, I don't think we can. I don't think we should judge Paul too harshly at this time in his own life. Because we do the same thing. We get stuck up in these types of beliefs and these types of ideas ourselves, and we refuse to be flexible enough to understand and recognize truth when it's shown to us. And a lot of times when we are that way, it literally takes a almost miraculous situation to change our mind. And it shouldn't have to get to this. Paul, while it was important for him to have this experience on the road to Damascus, I think, Jesus would have still been able to use him if he had just kind of, come to it in a more sort of reasonable sort of way. That if it wasn't him going to terrorize the early church. And we ourselves should take that lesson to heart as well. We should look and examine within our own lives beliefs that we hold about the world specifically, and it can be any types of beliefs that we hold hold in this sort of similar way, where we would literally be willing to go and terrorize people who disagree with us. Now, not in the sense that Paul was, but I would generally say that if somebody says something that you disagree with and you feel necessary to write a very lengthy post in response to them online, that's probably a belief that you should maybe take a second, step back, and say, well, hold on, maybe I should consider the possibility that I might be wrong on that. And I want to emphasize here, because I know some of you are probably hearing this and thinking, well, hold on. Are you saying then that we should be doing this with all of our beliefs? And I believe yes, actually. I believe that there is a process and it's a habit that I've kind of gotten myself into of asking the question of what if I'm wrong on this type of an issue? And I do it with everything. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. And I don't think there's anything that even is that erodes away your own faith by doing that, because you're not necessarily accepting that belief or anything like that is wrong, but you are at least taking some time to consider, well, okay, if I'm wrong on this, what would that imply? What would that mean in terms of the world? What would that mean in terms of how things should be approached and everything, it at least it makes you not as hostile towards people who have different ideas of you, the ideas and points of view as yourself. At least that's what I found for myself, and I think that is an important thing. You know, we live in a society now that is heavily polarized in sort of a similar way as what we're seeing here in this very passage, and a lot of these issues, they're not worth fighting over at this type of level. And and if we could just kind of come to an understanding of, okay, I believe this, but you believe that, that's fine. We can even talk and even have spirited debate about why we believe what we believe. But at the end of the day, I still view you as a human being, and I still love and appreciate you. I think the world would be a better place, and we wouldn't necessarily have some of these issues. So let's take that lesson from Paul. Let's not be like Paul in this one specific instance. Let's not be like him and be so stubborn that we literally require Jesus to appear before us for our lives to be changed. Let's open ourselves up to the possibility that some of these beliefs that we have about the world might actually not be accurate. And let's recognize that those around us who don't hold the same sort of point of view of ours are still worthy of our respect and our appreciation and our love.